Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today we're going to start pepper seeds. So we're going to use some soil blocks, 2-inch. And I've already made a tray full. I'm using this 10 by 10 strong, sturdy, bootstrap farmer tray. It's going to hold 25 soil blocks. And we're going to be planting a good size, about 7-inch tapered, thin-walled sweet red pepper. Great for sauteing or grilling. It is an heirloom variety, and it's from northern Macedonia originally, and it's called Ajvarski. And this is the third year I'm using my own saved seed. Now you're going to start all your pepper seeds about 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost. And here our average last frost is at the end of April. Now it's mid-February right now, and it's a perfect time to start our pepper seeds. Now pepper seeds need a temperature between 70 and 90 degrees to germinate. And this is our furnace room, but we're having an unusually warm week, which isn't normal for February. And the furnace just isn't running very much. So we're going to go ahead and put these on a heat mat to help them stay warm. I typically put about 3 seeds in each hole because I have plenty of seeds. But later we will have to thin. I like to put a little bit of soil on top of each seed hole. I've experienced growing a variety of sweet heirloom peppers. Red and yellow, orange and purple, and even chocolate. But these are my top producers. Last year, I put over 100 pounds in the freezer, plus everything I ate fresh. And my garden is only 660 square feet all together. I grow in a very small space. And these are my top pepper. Now, if it's warm enough, these should germinate in about 4 to 7 days. If it's not warm enough, it might take 20 days. So hopefully the heat mat will help. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today we're going to pot up sweet and hot peppers. Now I've already prepared my 4-inch pots with soil. And I've left them on the heat mat to keep the soil warm. Now the soil we're using today is Pro Mix Organic Garden potting soil. It's recommended to start your pepper seeds 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost. I started these seeds 11 weeks before my last frost. These seeds were started 4 weeks ago. They germinated on a heat mat in only 7 days. So these seedlings, they're 3 weeks old, and I've already thinned them. I just want 1 plant per soil block. See, here's where I snipped out the extra seedlings. Now they did germinate with a dome. After they germinated, I pulled them off the heat mat because I needed to steal it for the okra. But they were not happy. So I bought some more heat mats and put them back on. They need that extra warmth because this furnace room hasn't been running very much because we've had a warmer than normal February. Now today it's running because it's cold outside. Can you hear it? But they've needed this extra warmth this month. Now, all of these sweet red peppers are the variety Ajvarski. I've grown these for several years, and these are grown from my own saved seeds. They're a thin-walled, about 7-inch tapered pepper. They are my favorite, and they have been my top producing pepper. Now they're going to grow inside under the lights on the heat mat for 7 more weeks. And as they get bigger and bushier, I've learned to space them apart to give them more room to grow. I want to develop big, strong plants. Now, I don't want them to fruit inside, so any flowers that appear, I'll take those off. Now I'm going to start hardening them off to get them used to the weather, the wind, the sun, and the temperature after our last frost. Here in north central Maryland, that means the beginning of May. And we're going to put them out into the garden 2 to 4 weeks after the last frost. So here, that's mid-May or after Mother's Day. Now always use warm water because cold water is going to cause cold shock. I've done it in the past. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today it's time to harden off our sweet and spicy peppers. These pepper plants are 10 weeks old. I potted them up from 2-inch soil blocks 7 weeks ago. Today, they're only going to be outside for 2 hours because they're not used to the sun and the wind and the temperature yet. Then they're going to come back inside under these lights here in the living room because these have the taller shelves. Every day, we're going to increase the amount of time that they spend outside. If you hear any noise, that's Dale upstairs, working right up there in his office. I'm going to start hardening them off in a protected area where there's less sun and wind. And every day, expose them to more and more sun, more wind. These are all grown from my own saved seeds. Sweet red Ajvarski peppers. These are ready to come outside. Now, I mentioned that I plan to remove the blossoms, but I decided I'm going to leave them. The fruit too. We'll see what happens after we transplant. We'll see if they fall off. I eat sweet peppers twice a week. I'm able to grow a whole year's worth here in my small garden. I tend to eat them fresh, then slice the rest and freeze them. Now, I'm going to harden these off 7 to 10 days. And I'm going to wait if the morning's too cold to bring them outside. They really don't like temperatures below 60. They're too tall for the shelf. They all, though, need a good drink of water. I'm going to need to protect them from digging squirrels and slugs. You want to plan out your peppers 2 to 4 weeks after your last frost. I'm going to use all that I can possibly fit. I only grow in a 600 square foot garden, including the back and the front. But if I have any left over that I can't use, I'll put them out on the community shelf that I have behind the garage. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. It's time to plant out our sweet peppers. Nighttime temperatures are above 55 degrees. Now this variety is Ajvarski, and they have been grown from my own saved seeds. Now the plants are 13 weeks old and they've already hardened off for 3 weeks. They're going to get to be about 2 feet tall and 2 feet wide. So I'm going to space them 18 inches apart. And if you're planting in rows, they do best spaced 24 to 36 inches apart, 2 to 3 feet. I'm going to plant them between the eggplant and the okra. It's going to be about 2 feet on each side. Now, if you notice those holes in the leaves, it's because the weather turned cold and extremely wet. And this is from slugs, pill bugs, and snails. And they've been hiding in the pots at the base of the roots. So I'm going to put some Sluggo in each hole. I've already checked and removed any of the pests that I found, but if I've overlooked any, I want this under the roots to hopefully kill them off. Let me have one last look here. We're all good. Now it's warmed up again, and that should cause less damage. Now, summer temperatures, slugs don't tend to be a problem, but one of my summer issues is blossom end rot. It's a problem here in all of our gardens. It's caused by a variety of reasons. One big reason is inconsistent watering. Either you water a lot or it rains a lot and then you have a dry spell and it can stress out the plants. Another cause is the soil doesn't have enough calcium. Plant can't get enough calcium, or it doesn't have enough magnesium, which helps it absorb the calcium. So there's a variety of reasons. For me, what has worked is adding Cal Mag. You add it to the water 2 times. When they're setting their first set of blossoms, and then they'll set a second set of blossoms. And I use it both times, and it really seems to help. Now, I don't prune the tops of my peppers. Some people say it causes them to branch out more, and I just really don't find it necessary. Also, your first fruits tend to come from the top, and they tend to be bigger than the second set of fruits. So anyway, I don't prune my peppers. Peppers are light feeders. If you feed your peppers often, it's possible to develop beautiful green leaves and big lush plants and no fruit. I don't plan to feed my peppers. But peppers do need full sun. They really don't like to be in the shade. Because I save my own seeds, I want to separate my hot peppers from my sweet peppers. If they're planted close together, it's possible they can cross-pollinate, meaning next year's sweet peppers could be hot and spicy. So it's always worked for me. For many years, I've put the sweet peppers here in the back and the hot peppers in the front. Now here in the city, squirrels, skunks, and robins can't resist the soft, new, freshly dug soil, and they'll dig and kill the plants. So I need to protect them with 4 pieces of hardware cloth around the stem, secured with a landscape pin. also add a cage around the pepper plants. It's more to protect them from me walking and accidentally stepping on them. Like, for example, this is a small space. There's only 2 feet between them and the okra. And during this planting, because there's a cage there, it's prevented me from accidentally crushing that okra plant. But if the fruit grows up against that cage, I can always remove it. Now, the peppers will need support, and I found that the heavy branches will break from the fruit, so I tend to just use a garden stake. See, they're back over there. Sometimes I add more than one. And just secure it with a zip tie. Now, peppers want an inch of water every week, but if I'm watering or it's raining and it deeply waters them, they like that better than a little bit every day. They'd rather have deep watering less frequently. Now today we're going to add the cow mag. So it needs 1 teaspoon per gallon. And this watering can is 1.5 gallons. So I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of the cow mag. And it's really hot and sunny right now, and these plants aren't used to it because it's been so cold and cloudy. So I'm not going to use the watering can with the sprayer because if the leaves get wet, the water droplets can act as magnifying glasses and burn the leaves. So I'm going to be careful today only to water the base of the peppers. And the last thing we're going to do is add some new mulch. It's going to help hold in the moisture. It's just basic mulch from Home Depot. Now, what am I going to do with these peppers that are left? Well, I'm going to share these with my community. Now, that area where I planted the peppers had fall vegetables. So the cardboard I put down in the fall had holes cut in it for those vegetables. So the squirrels and the skunk have really been digging in that area. So I brought in some new mulch. The fall leaves have basically just been scattered. This is my favorite vegetable to grow, sweet peppers. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. It's the end of July and it's time to take a look at the sweet red Ajvarski peppers. The plants are loaded with green peppers, and a few are starting to turn red. I am so excited. I love my sweet red peppers. I like to wait till they change color. I prefer not to harvest them green, but Every day I do check for any damaged peppers. If I see damage, I go ahead and harvest them. So this is the beginning of blossom end rot. It's really small, so I go ahead and pick it because it's just going to grow and get bigger. Let me show you one that I left to show you how the rot will spread, and there's no reason to leave it. Try to harvest it when the rot is really tiny. Now, blossom end rot happens for a variety of reasons. And I think this year it's because of the stress of the extreme heat and not much rain. Because I don't water my peppers. Now, the first 7 days, I will water the young transplants. But after that, I let the spring rain develop really deep roots. Yesterday, I moved some of the grandkids' sweet peppers, and digging the hole 1 foot down, the whole garden was dry. But my peppers are doing well. But when flowers were developing, I did water in some cow mag. It helps with blossom end rot. It's my understanding that you have to do it during flower development. I don't feed my peppers. And the reason, this plant is a good example. Do you see how it's double the size of the others? Because it's near the compost and all this rich soil. It makes for a big plant and lots of leaves, but it hasn't developed fruit yet. All of these are almost ready to change color, and this one is just now flowering. It's also big because do you remember how cold the spring was and these plants really struggled, except for this one, because it had the warmth of the compost and it grew quickly. But now with the flowers, it's time to water in the cow mag. So I notice the rest of my plants are setting their second set of fruit. But there's just a few blossoms, and I want to wait to add cow mag when it's lots and lots of flowers. This week the temperature is going to soar again, and I'm concerned that these blossoms will be sterile because really hot weather can cause sterile flowers. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today we need to hurry up and harvest the sweet red peppers before what's left over of Hurricane Debbie arrives. I think about an hour and a half. We're expecting 4 inches of rain. And since last night, we've already had 2 inches. I'm concerned that the heavy fruit will cause the pepper branches to break. cold front moved through last night, and like I said, we've already had 2 inches of rain. So these peppers are full of water. This is the Heirloom variety sweet red Ajvarski peppers, grown from the seeds that I've been saving for several years. Sweet peppers are my favorite vegetable to grow. Now if it's still a little bit green, I'm going to go ahead and leave it. Now see how all these are the same height and then this one's just giant? It's because, remember, it was planted next to the compost. And while all these other ones struggled in the cold spring, this one had the warmth radiating off of the compost, so it grew really big, and it's also in rich soil. But interestingly, it's just now setting fruit. So the fruit is way behind the other plants. Now I grow in a small space here in north central Maryland in a historic downtown row house. And this yard is very thin and narrow, so I'm trying to be careful I'm harvesting and not break these pepper plants. But the okra is right here, and so is the fence. Now that first plant we harvested from, and then this little guy here, these are from the alley, from the grandkids' garden. But that raised bed dried out so fast because from June 1st till now, we haven't had much rain and lots of heat waves. But the peppers have done well since I haven't watered them. So these 2 plants I had to move here 2 weeks ago. They're smaller than the rest of the peppers, but they're still producing fruit. There's plenty more. They're going to be red soon. Then these plants are going to set their second set of blossoms, and we'll have more fruit before the fall freeze. Now, if there's some that are still green before the freeze, just pull up the plants, leave the roots, hang them upside down, and the fruit will ripen themselves. I'll make a video about that much later. Bring them in the house and make a video showing you how I preserve and use them. Sweet and green peppers are easy. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today it's time to pull up the sweet red Ajvarski peppers, and we're going to hang them upside down in the garage for the green fruit to ripen. I did this last year in October before the first frost. So many of my peppers were big, but they were still green. I hung them in the basement and it worked. I harvested so many more red peppers. I've already pulled up their support stakes and that's why they're flopping over. Now I just put some nails up in this beam and I've used some zip ties around the stem to hang them. Last year I experimented. I compared cutting the plant off and leaving the root in the ground and pulling it up with the roots on, and the plants where I left the roots did so much better. The ones where I cut off the root, the fruit wilted really quickly. You see how the dirt fell off? Last year doing this in the basement was a huge mess and a lot of work carrying them down the stairs and hanging them up. So putting them in the garage is going to be much better. Now it's only mid-August, and the first set of fruit is still turning red, and the second set of fruit is just setting. They're small, so why am I pulling up the plants now? It's because my freezers are full. And because I want to plant fall green beans in this area. Now the peppers are not going to continue to grow, but they will change color. I'm going to leave this one plant. It is absolutely giant and it's just started to set fruit. So if you've done any reading about growing peppers, you'll read the warning not to overfeed your peppers because they'll grow really big, beautiful leaves and plants but have less fruit. And this is a good example because it was planted near the compost. And after we planted these mid-May, it was cold and the plants struggled except for this one plant. It shot up because of the warmth radiating off of the compost, but it's just now setting fruit. Now, if you notice, some of the peppers are ripe, and some are still partially green, and some are fully green. So after we finish here, we'll harvest the ones that are ready. Now you're going to need to check the fruit every day and harvest the red ones. Now the leaves are going to wilt and dry out, and that's fine. But if the fruit starts to wilt, you're going to go ahead and want to pick that. Because last year, most of them stayed firm. And if they wilted, they don't really change color. They're just going to rot. Now after the leaves wilt, then I'll be able to see the peppers better, and I'll count them. And I'll film an update. We have a full house. Good morning. Welcome to our grow room. We're down in the basement because today it's raining, but I thought this would be a good time to show you the peppers and have an update. Remember, we hung them up before the first frost. But I feel it's time to harvest all of them, no matter what color. Let me show you. Now, many of the red peppers still look good. They still have a smooth skin, like this one. But some of them are become all wrinkly because these plants are drying out and the peppers don't really have any more moisture to pull from the plant. Some of the green ones still look good, but we're going to go ahead and harvest those. And even the wrinkly ones. We can still put them in the freezer. They'll cook up just fine. So today, let's harvest them all. Come on, help me. That was only from 2 plants. See how some are still smooth? Those look really good. And some are all wrinkly. That's the reason I'm harvesting all today. Now, I did 2 harvests already where they were really good looking red peppers and any green that were really wrinkly and drying out. I already processed those green peppers in the freezer, but the red peppers that I harvested in the past down here, I washed and left them in the refrigerator so I can show you all the red peppers at one time that we harvested from the basement. Normally, I process as I harvest, but I saved them this time so I could show you how many we got from hanging our pepper plants. There he is. Wow, the bowl's already full. So I found this tub we can use. See all the peppers? All of these I harvested in the past. These we harvested today. Now they're separate because they're still dirty. I haven't washed them. And we also harvested those green ones today. Altogether, we've harvested 64 red peppers from the basement. If I'd harvested them all outside, they would have all been green. Let me show you up close. These are beautiful. Now, if you want to see me harvesting these other peppers, check our shorts. I did several pepper updates. I'm going to wash these, de-seed them, and then slice them. I like them in slices, and then I'll freeze them in bags. Later, I'll make either a post or a short about how many peppers all together we've frozen this summer, or I'll post a picture. Check the community tab. You know, on the channel page, there's all these tabs at the top. One of them says community. I did post pictures of those 2 harvests on there. Thank you for visiting our grow room. In winter, you're going to see more of the grow room. I like year-round to do something that involves growing food.